Hi friends, welcome to another furniture flip. In this video, we are going to take this very old and dingy looking trunk and give it a very modern Pottery Barn inspired look. So stick around to see what we do with it. First things first, we are going to give this piece a really good clean. I am using Crud Cutter, which is a great deglosser and degreaser that allows you to prep a piece. It's not something that I usually use. I like to use the TSP alternative. However, I have it in my workroom and might as well finish it. What you see here is, I think the Crud Cutter started to melt away the finish, perhaps even the poor kind of stain that was used on this, and that's why all of this nasty brownie stuff is coming off the trunk. I think that is just removing a whole lot of the finish. I truly hope that that's not dirt. It is just the finish really failing and needing a good clean off. This is a perfect example of why we want to clean before we do anything else. We want to remove all of these oils and dirt that's on the furniture piece that's going to prevent the paint from sticking. It's also kind of colors and things that will come through the paint. I'm going to use a lighter color on this, and all of this dark brown kind of gunk that's coming off would actually come through the paint. As the paint dries, it's likely to pull it through, and that's why we want to give everything a really good clean. We want to remove anything that will prevent the paint from sticking or will discolor the paint. I also took a moment to do a few repairs. A lot of the edge banding you can see here just literally came off, and I decided to just remove it instead of trying to glue it back. The wood underneath was very smooth and it was perfect to just seal up and paint. I just repaired some of the corners or any kind of gaps and in the finish. As I was working on this, I decided to, of course, make my life a little bit harder, and I thought the trunk will look a lot better if I actually painted inside the lid and at the back instead of just doing the front and leaving the back. I decided to kind of do an all over paint job. That way the trunk can be used in any spot, and when you open it, it will look a lot better and put together. Prior to applying my primer, I did a scuff sand over everything with 220 grit. This finish, kind of the more I worked on it, I realized it's really just a melamine or some kind of very light plasticky veneer. So even though I was trying to scuff sand it, I was not really kicking up a lot of dust apart from the front. And that told me that I needed to use a good adhesion and, of course, blocking primer to block in all of that brown stuff from coming through on my paint. The paint and products that you see and use in this video are all listed in the description for your convenience, and a lot of them are from my website, Dove+Arrow.com. We ship to Canada and the US, and I have included a little coupon code in the description to kind of give you a little incentive towards your first purchase. One of my go-to primers in a situation like this where I want to add as much adhesion as I can as well as blocking is of course the Zinster Shellac based primer. This is a great product, however it is very stinky and very hard to get out of things, so I don't like to spray it. I like to roll it, so that way I can just get rid of the roller once I'm done. I actually had this little can tinted at the hardware store when I purchased it. You can't quite see it in the can, however once you apply the primer you can see that it's a light gray color. I had it tinted so that it can go underneath another darker color. You can't really do much with the white. You can't make it much darker, however it did help to transition it slightly. I was being stubborn here, not wanting to use and waste another brush, so that's why I'm trying to kind of squeeze the roller into all of the nooks and crannies. I also did end up picking up the same primer in a spray can, that way I can get into those little details easier. The can is quite expensive here, so that's why I try to use it only sparingly whenever needed. Actually, in the next few videos, you'll see that I'm kind of challenging myself to only use what I have on hand, even not open new cans of paint, just so that we can kind of get through some of the backlog of supplies that I have. And I have so many different plans and never enough time to get things done. So that's why you'll see that I'll be doing some kind of more interesting finishes and different things, because I've gotten the supplies, but I never got around to using them. And here is another example. I am trying to mix my own kind of tan color. I was planning on using two different Dixie Belle colors, and I actually realized I have the Sawmill Gravy open from another project and decided to mix Sawmill Gravy and Cobblestone to get this really kind of attractive neutral brown based tan color that I'm going to use as my base for this piece. And I actually am going to color match this and kind of have it on record because I just absolutely love this color. It turned out to be about 65%, 65 to 75% Sawmill Gravy, and then the rest Cobblestone. In editing this video, I realized you won't see me painting this piece because I don't have any footage of that. I just quickly painted the entire thing with this color that I mixed up. And before applying the glaze, and in order to kind of see the colors that I'm using, I decided to change up the legs to more of a modern mid-century look. This is something that I do often. The legs that you see me using, you will see in quite a few videos because I do like the look. They're just simple angled legs, and I like them to be kind of at the edge of the pieces instead of deep inside. Many of the mid-century pieces have these skinny little legs that are set far in, and I like to bring out the legs and make them a little chunkier to give them more of a modern look. And this is kind of where we are, and I was looking at the colors and seeing whether the wash that I'm doing will match and deciding what to do next. And we are going to attempt this Pottery Barn look that's very popular right now, where we do a fall wood finish using a glaze, and I'm going to use the Antiquing Glaze by Fusion Mineral Paint. It's not quite as dark brown as I'd like it to be, however for this experiment it actually turned out rather beautiful. And what you'll see me do is apply the glaze nice and liberally onto the surface, and I worked on one small section at a time, and then brush it through with a deck staining brush and then a kind of plastic broom to get a bit of texture in there. For the small spaces I use this little toothbrush type thing that I got in my sprayer for cleaning, so it actually worked really great. It just got tucked into the little edges and it completed the look. So here is kind of a few different looks at how I achieved the Pottery Barn dupe look. Because I'm kind of doing a lot of different experimentation in different finishes and I'm playing with the surfaces and the textures, I wanted to use the Antiquing Glaze by Fusion Mineral Paint because it is a nice water-based finish that, if needed, I can repaint over quite easily, as well as it dries a lot faster than the other glazes that are in the market that may be oil-based. I also am not really trying to do an absolute match to the Sausalito finish by Pottery Barn. I want to get a finish that matches the colors and the color scheme that I'm going for in this piece. Now here's kind of what I decided to do, was to do a little paint wash over my glaze at the end in order to get the color to match better. And this is where I really messed up quite a bit because I did not let the glaze dry, and then I put way too much force in wiping this back and not realizing that the paint underneath is still not sealed, and there you go. Luckily the surface is water-based, so I was able to quickly repaint it and reglaze it. After I let everything dry really well, I applied a paint wash, basically using the paint that I used on the entire piece with lots of water to make the colors a little more cohesive, especially over the glaze, and match everything a little bit better. So when you look at the piece, it just flows together. There's not a lot of contrast. Adding a little bit of a dry brush also allowed for me to get a little bit more depth in the finish, which really added to the overall look. It made it more realistic and more wood-like, having the different tones popping through and slight unevenness and so forth. And finally, it was time for finishing touches. I went around the frame in order to kind of clean up my edges and get everything nice and smooth. I am trying to not use tape here and just be very patient in painting the edges. It's a good exercise in patience. I did leave the front in just the color that I used in order to have a little bit of interest and contrast, and I think it really combined the two different textures of the nice pattern in the front and then the glaze on the sides, and it really helped make the piece interesting to look at, but also very nice and cohesive. And finally, I applied 3 coats of a Gator Hide, which is a Dixie Belle finish, to everything. We are using water-based products, especially the paint needs to be sealed. underneath the glaze, and it's raining outside, which means that I took quite a bit of risk, but I needed to get this done as fast as possible. When spraying, don't do this, don't spray in the rain. It will dry a lot slower and you may experience drips. But here's where we started. This trunk looked quite sad, and this is what we ended up with. A really nice, different look, very light, airy, and happy. What do you guys think? Would you try this finish? Would you try to use the glazes and kind of get textured finish? Do you think we got close to the Pottery Barn look? What do you think? Let me know.